Hello folks! Well, so far on our travels, hasn't New Mexico been just amazing? Maybe I should say, isn't it enchanting? It is the land of enchantment. We've seen so many different landscapes. You'd think a desert is just in your head, a bunch of shifting sand dunes, maybe a cactus here and there, but we have really seen something else here. I want us to notice this cliffside. And notice all the little holes, maybe not the natural ones, but the larger ones, far into the distance. They're large enough to house not just wild animals, but people. Yes, on the side of this cliff here in the Pajarito Plateau, right west of the Rio Grande River, the ancient Ancestral Pueblo people called this area their home. Man, these sites are just incredible here in the Southwest. Nothing like you might see. Now, it wasn't just on the side of these caves that the ancient Puebloan people lived. They also conducted a lot of political and cultural activities at these circular pits. These would have been underground. And we saw one of these, or at least a reconstruction of one, at Pecos National Historic Park, and these are called kivas. So throughout the Southwest, even to this day, kivas are used in various ceremonies and rituals and to maintain the traditions of these Southwest Native American peoples. It is here at Bandelier National Monument, today's location, that we will be getting a glimpse into the lives of these ancient ancestral Puebloan people. And that's because here in this national monument lie the remains of what was a thriving center for the ancient Pueblo people, such as this. A whole, well, we don't really know exactly, at least until I read the signs, of what this is, but you can see that for hundreds of years these remains have laid dormant, thankfully preserved. Okay, so I read the sign down there. This used to be a village, one of many villages in this greater area, but you can see that just because we are in technically what's considered a desert doesn't mean you can't thrive here and build a society. From around 1150 to 1600, these people lived a very agrarian lifestyle. They utilized the water that could be found in these valleys, whether they be streams or creeks, to subsist with various farming techniques that were passed down generation after generation here. Oh my goodness, I think we've come across some New Mexico wildlife, larger than a bug or a little salamander. I had no idea that deer existed here in this region of the country. How you doing there, fella? Desert grass tastes good? Now these formations are interesting in particular. Believe it or not, this area is at the center of a place with volcanic activity. Around here in the western part of the United States, lots of volcanoes, lots of calderas, lots of volcanic activity in general. And so an ancient volcano here erupted once, and what was deposited were all of these conical shaped rocks. Now they're rocks, but they were ash at one point. From all those people up there oohing and eyeing, there's probably some more things of interest if we just go up here. So we've now arrived at one of the many places in which these ancestral Pueblo people lived. You can see that it's not just this one, but many, large enough to fit a good, probably family. And so with this one cave area, you could probably fit at least a good portion of the village. So here we are with a great view. Imagine this could be your front yard. Not just this little patio thing, but the whole mountainside, this whole valley where you could see part of the village. In this ancient village, this could have very well been the penthouse section, with all these houses and such a beautiful view. Now, there weren't just the ground level dwellings or the cave dwellings. Occasionally, you would find buildings like the house in front of us. This is a reconstruction, but you could still understand the age-old way of creating these Pueblo houses. Not just in a cave, but made of stone and adobe. This was the way to do it. Like, these people subsisted off of what was in their land. They didn't go to the grocery store and get their food. They didn't go to the hardware store to build their houses. They just looked at everything around them and they made use with the resources they had. Now I guess this cave was a little nicer. You see, you can stand in it. And it's part of a complex of a few caves here. Now it makes you wonder, why would people choose to be in these caves and live here when, you know, just on the ground level you could probably make a nice little shelter? What went into that? Was there something going on in these ancient Pueblo people's history? And I guess archaeologists and researchers are still trying to piece together the puzzle of these ancient Pueblo people who inhabited these lands, because there's lots of questions that are yet to be answered here. I'll tell you, between the cave dwellings that we see, all the rock formations above, and the stunning view of this huge valley, it is really easy to get lost in the awe, the wonder of one's surroundings here. And this is in the middle of nature. If it wasn't for the Civilian Conservation Corps back in the 1930s to develop these trails, well, it would be very difficult, near impossible, to really have a national monument in itself. When you think about what it takes to get from the top of these mesas down to the bottom, where these valleys and streams are, it takes a lot of walking, a lot of energy, and quite a lot of risk and danger too. Now, this is pretty interesting. One, it's just incredible to see how things can be carved into the walls of this giant cliff so that people, I mean, it looks big enough where people can fit into it. People might have been walking through on the interior. But what's more significant are these faint drawings, different shapes, designs, which indicate that the people here mark these walls with a sense of symbolism. Maybe they were representative of certain ideas that the Pueblo had, or maybe it was just artwork. Petroglyphs that you can see here in Bandelier National Monument are not restorations or recreations. Those are the authentic, real deal from the people hundreds of years ago. You know, going through the Great Plains, through our Frontier Americana trip, it's been a while since we have seen trees of this size. Now, these aren't the mighty redwoods of California, but they are still something compared to a large portion of the interior of the country. You'll find them here in the high deserts, of all places, of New Mexico. What an amazing hike we have here. We're not even done here in Bandelier National Monument, but you can see we are right at the foot of this immaculate cliff. The Pueblo are very lucky that their ancestral homeland is in a place of such beauty. This is the grand finale. Up there, about 140, 150 feet above us, is the Alcove house. And this, if you are able to, physically able to, this is a must-see, must-do adventure. At the side of this massive cliff's face is a cave. Now, I'm not sure, is this a natural cave that was created somehow, geologic processes, or could this have been hand-carved by a big team back in the day, back in the ancient times? And this could fit up to 25 people at a time. Now, this must have been the penthouse. Criminy, that is a big climb. Well, we made it to the top of the Alcove house with such a view of both the beauty of nature and the beauty of culture. I have little words other than I'm extremely humbled to be at this point right now with you all. So it looks like that's another one of those kivas, but I'm sure there's probably a lot more significance to this one in particular because of our location high on these peaks of the mountains here in Bandelier. Unfortunately, the series of villages and kivas and settlements and all of this was abandoned due to unknown reasons. We're still trying to figure that out. Some say maybe it was resource depletion. Other people say maybe the climate changed, became too inhospitable, too dry. There's no one consensus. But it is a shame that it was abandoned. Bandelier National Monument is New Mexico's favorite treasure trove of all things culturally Pueblo. It is a sacred site, and today people from various Pueblo groups on these different modern Pueblos, like the Santa Clara, Santo Domingo, they come here and they use this area as almost like a pilgrimage site. And it's heartening in a way because throughout the last couple hundred years, the indigenous peoples of the Americas have not been treated the most kindly. Through the Spanish, then the British, then the Americans, things weren't always great. But in today's time, it's very nice to know that the cultural traditions and the sacred rites of these people, the Pueblo, are still being practiced. Not only is it just such an honor to be here, looking at all the wonder around us, it's quite relaxing, and it's the perfect temperature to visit here in Bandelier. I thought all of New Mexico was just going to be hot and unbearably arid and dry, and that was a concern I was having, but it seems like around these parts, that's not a concern at all. It's a nice, mild temperature. It's all great. What joy and excitement we have here on the Coverage Project. We will be in New Mexico for a couple more journeys, a couple more destinations and locations to visit. There's a lot to do in New Mexico, and I can't do everything in one trip. I'd love to return to the state. I don't know why I'm saying all this. We still have quite a bit more of New Mexico content to go, but I'll leave it off at that. So, standing with such excitement that I'm sure you can understand, see, with everything going on right here at the Alcove house at the top of Bandelier National Monument. More travels to come. I will see you at the next location.